Jean-Jacques, a pleasure.
Hello.
On that side.
On that side.
You're on the right side.
Okay. I don't like being seated, but.
You want to stand up the whole time?
Well, I'll try my best.
I mean, you can.
I'll stand up.
Do you mind me sitting though?
No, you know, usually directors, they sit in this armchair with their name behind. I never use those things.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. We can do it standing up for the next hour if you want to, if that makes you more comfortable.
We'll see how it goes.
Okay, fantastic. Welcome, first of all, to Zurich. By the way, you probably heard about it. It was Jean-Jacques' birthday 2 days ago. No, yesterday.
I had many of those over the years, you know. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to Zurich on your birthday. We already celebrated your premiere, your new movie, Wolf Totem in 3D. Right. The crowd was very excited about it. Why is this movie so special to you? I mean, you've been working on it for quite a long time.
I had, since childhood, a fascination for exotic places. Because, I was born in a small, nice, peaceful suburb south of Paris. But there was no perspective. It was charming, a little house with flowers. I had a little dog. I was the only child. Everything was fine. Something was terribly missing, adventure. My little street was going to nowhere. The only exaltation that I had was on Sunday with Mum and Dad when we were going to cinema. And that was a big screen opening and adventure. But anyway, we had very few books at home, but one was about China. As a matter of fact, I was almost shy to go to Asia. I remember being invited in India, in Japan, in Taiwan, and I would say, no. I want the real experience, and for me, the real experience is making a movie. First movie I did in Asia was called The Lover, L'Amant, from Marguerite Duras' best book. Thank you. Thank you. And after that, I didn't know what happened to me. For a year, when I was back to France, I couldn't eat French food, although I love French food. But I wanted to carry on with my Vietnamese food. And then I remember saying to my assistant, I said, find me material. I want to go back to Asia and understand better why is it that I love it so much. And I remember the next day I said, find something about the spirituality of Asia, because I'm a very rationalistic person, but I love people in temples. Yeah, I do. I love religion, but not for me, but I respect religion. When I did The Name of the Rose, it was for one of those reasons. And then this is how I got involved with 7 years in Tibet. 7 years in Tibet, which was this true story of this Austrian mountain climber, was a perfect thing for me to meet with one part of Asian spirituality. Unfortunately, the movie did very well in the world, but irritated very much in China. And I was not welcome in China. I was always worried when I was changing plane in Hong Kong that something not nice would happen to me. And then I had another adventure. I did a movie called Two Brothers that I shot in Cambodia, where I had, again, a great, wonderful experience. I lived a year in Cambodia. But then, that was this magical land of China that remained a mystery. And 2007, I had a delegation of Chinese people coming to my office in Paris and saying to me, do you know about a Chinese book called Wolf Totem? And I said, yes, of course I know. It's wonderful. And they said, would you consider to direct it? I said, well, wait a minute. I don't think I'm welcome. And the first contact was great. So they looked at each other. They said, all right, China, we have changed. Okay. And then they look at each other and they smile and they say, look, we are pragmatic. We have no idea how you make those movies that we know of you. We need you. And I said, okay. And then a few days later, I was in a plane. I went from the plane to to meet the Beijing mayor, who said to me, "Well, listen, we have a problem with pollution here. I cannot say it, but I can say it to you. You're a foreigner, it's fine." And then I was put in four-wheel drive, and I spent 3 weeks with the writer of the novel and the other character who is in the movie, who became today almost the official painter of Mongolia. And for 3 weeks, I was with a bunch of crazy people, absolutely in love with Mongolia. They were Chinese, but in love with Mongolia. We went to see all their old friends. I visited all the places where he used to put his yurt. He used to care about his flock of sheep. He would stop every 5 minutes, and I had to be on my fore and eat some grass, as if I were a sheep, you know. Said, "Oh, this one, oh, they love it so much." I would eat the. It was amusing. It was bizarre. It was warm. And I could not believe that we were, because, you know, in China, usually when I do scouting in Europe, I have an assistant, a driver, and that's about it. We were 35. So in China, you multiply things by 20. And then I was with that group of guys. We got drunk every evening because we were in Mongolia, so we had to, you know, do the symbolic thing, put your finger, give a drop of liquor to Tengri, and then another to your ancestor, and then another to yourself, and then you go zoig and all the way down. But it was wonderful. I said, I didn't know I could have so much fun in that place. And then, you know, the fact that we had people they were intellectuals from Beijing. One of them was the head of Beijing television with the third channel of China. His wife, who was a former dancer, she was, you know, dancing. Another guy was a Mongol rock singer. Another one was, all of them in love with nature and saying, you have to help us. We need someone like you. You're an independent voice. We need you to tell us, because we cannot say it, but you can say it. And this is how I ended up doing. I've been always very free in my life, but very freely, the movie the way I wanted to make it, with the support of everyone, the Mongols of the village, the governor of the province, the Chinese government, the big company I was working with. It just helped me to, and you know, one day, they said a funny thing to me. I was almost worried. I said, why is it that you give me so much freedom? And they said, well, because we understand you love us, and we're very touched with that, so we trust you. Go ahead, do what you want, and we need what you want. We need your voice. And they said it again. And until today, this is what happened. Strangely enough, you may have heard yesterday that this movie represents China for the Oscar race. So I represent China. I'm glad, I'm very honored. Years ago, my first movie I did in Ivory Coast, and I did get the Academy Award for Best Foreign Movie with That was many years ago. But it was for Ivory Coast. And my producer, a man from Switzerland, Arthur Cohn, called me, said, no, don't come, because people think you're black. And they would be... I swear. They would be disappointed if they see you. Anyway, it's quite... But I also feel that this is what it is to be a filmmaker. Cinema is an international language. I didn't know. I know like 3 words in Mandarin, about 5 in German. I did 2 movies in Germany. Lived 1 year in Munich, 1 year in Berlin, a 3rd year in Munich. I speak whatever I can, and it never stops friendship and understanding.
And it's great. It seems to be like that, you know, the movies and the books are finding you in a way. And you just mentioned it. Liu Jiamin, I think, is the name of the author of the Wolf Totem book. What kind of person is he? Because it's based on his own experiences. And as far as I understood, that the Chinese, I mean, he did it, but he didn't do it on his own name as a ghostwriter in the beginning. And then it became this phenomenon and a best-selling novel. Why is this so important, especially for the Mongolian people and now for the Chinese people, to turn it into a movie? What makes it so interesting?
Well, you know, he wrote it like 12 years ago, this book. And 12 years ago, it was not permitted to say that industrialization had side effects that were not good for health. And this man had a very... I don't know everything about him. I know him very, very well. We became very close friends. But there are some mysterious aspects of his life. This is why he never shows up in public. When there was a 10th anniversary of the publishing of his book, I was the person representing the book. So already, you know, but so there is some aspect of his life. He went to prison after Tiananmen Square. I mean, but there are other things. Complicated, which is what I love in China. It's complicated. No, it's true. Everyone has, you know, not the young generation, but people that are over 40, they all have very interesting stories, sometimes very difficult story. What it is he, when he was very young, when he was 21, he decided to go to somewhere in the countryside. I didn't know where. He was sent to Mongolia, and the same year, something very similar happened to me. I was just finishing film school, and I was sent during my national duty in those years in France, like in Switzerland. We had, as French citizens, to give a year and a half of our life to the army. But I was given to the Minister of Foreign Affairs to teach cinema in Cameroon. And I went to the Cameroon, same year, same moment. Like Jiang Rong, I had no idea what was waiting for me. I didn't like the idea. The minute the door of the plane opened, I fell in love with the continent. And I'm still in love with the continent. You may have seen me posing in front of Médecins Sans Frontières poster. My daughter is in Africa now. My older daughter is an anthropologist about Africa. Therefore, you know, it has consequences. And therefore, I identified very much with this with this character. The same that happened to him in Mongolia, this fascination for a culture that's so different. You know, between Chinese and Mongol, they don't understand each other. It's not a variation of the same language. It's another group, linguistic group. The Tibetans and the Mongols, they speak an Indian language that has more common words with us than they have with China. They are nomads. The Chinese are traditionally agriculture peasants. So it was a total shock for him. He fell absolutely in love for life. Then after that, he went back to Beijing, became a teacher, had political activities, and 50 years later, he decided to write his story. And he was so much in love with the beauty of Mongolia. He was so much in love with nature, with the need of balance between man and animals, that it's something like, you know, he needed to say. He spitted it out. And nobody paid attention to this book because it was a book about Mongolia. Nobody cares in China about Mongolia. It's a book as thick as that. And he used an unknown name. So nobody paid attention. But his wife is the sort of Marguerite Duras of China. She is writing novels that nobody reads, but she has lots she has lots of interviews, and she's an intellectual. She's a charming woman, and she knew the right publishers. And a very wise publisher decided to put it on the market without saying anything, but having the right connection to say, read this, it's quite an extraordinary book. And then people discovered the book and went, wow, but this is exactly what we have to say. Yes, we have to protect nature, because the contradiction, you know, from here we see a lot of documentaries about pollution in China. Believe me, I was there. I have seen friends of mine trying to find the door for their apartment with their GPS, because it's so, the smog is so thick. So when they discovered this, written by a man living in Beijing, and you know, the traditional culture of China, if you look at Chinese painting, it's all about nature. It's birds, it's horses, mountains, and they love it. Of course, they love also the Ferraris, and they love also modern comfort that pollutes. But then this book became a sort of important book to read. And there was also another message that was sent in the book, a few pages, where he was comparing the population of China to a big flock of sheep, and the Mongols like a pack of wolves. What he wanted to say is, you know, in China there were already hundreds of million people in the previous centuries, while the Mongols were only 10,000 or 100,000 people on horses, nomads. And they created the largest empire of the world, and they run China in Beijing today. It's still very influenced by Mongol and Manchu culture. And the writer was saying, we have a sheep mentality. So then it created a debate, you know, people say, hey, we're not sheep, you know, we're dragons. And and Mongols, they say, what do you mean we're not wolves, you know, we're nice people as well. So it created a debate, and therefore created the fame of the novel, which became the most sold novel, the best-selling novel, since the Mao's Red Book. So it's a phenomenal success, and it made me more personal. When I met this writer for the first time, he lived in a small apartment in a suburb, and he already had piles of his books. But now he has a mansion in the middle of a rose garden. He has a little river around him, and he has a private elevator in the house, and he lives under a chandelier hanging from the ceiling. If it crashes, the whole family is dead. So you know, he became now a celebrity. He's a rich guy, but he's still so much in love with Mongolia. It makes me really happy to see when he starts speaking about Mongolia, I can't stop him. And when you start speaking about balance of nature and man, how important it is to have bugs. And nobody likes bugs, but we need bugs, we need mosquitoes, we need ants. If not, nature gets off balance and it's a catastrophe. About Mongolia, I can tell you that not a few weeks ago I was in Beijing and suddenly the wind was blowing from Mongolia, couldn't see where we were going because the grassland becomes a sand dune. It's like the Sahara, and the wind is blowing because no wolves means many rats, and the rats, they pull out the grass and then kill the prairie. It kills the grass, it kills the grassland. And I've seen, between the moment I picked some location, a few locations I couldn't shoot anymore because the grass had disappeared. So, and all that because no more wolves, no more predators. And the other predator is the falcon and the eagles. But unfortunately, there is a big market in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia for those. And I've seen a lot of people wearing the Qatari suit in Land Rovers in Mongolia, capturing illegally those other predators. So today, no more predators, just rats. And an ecological possible disaster to come.
Jean-Jacques, keeping all that in mind, what you just said about the book and the love of the author to Mongolia, and giving, that the Chinese delegation basically said, listen, we want you to take creative freedom and do what you think you should do in telling this story objectively. Did you feel pressured? Because, if you see someone so in love with his country and with the story, especially with the background that this whole thing has, did you feel at first you were like, wow, this is great, thank you for the honor, but on the other hand, this is probably... No,
but I feel that the only thing I can do is either refuse, or if I do it with a sincere heart. Just I'm asked to say what I want, okay, I'll say what I want, and I'll say it the way I want. And when I do something like that, I'm always certain that I'm going to get some people thinking, oh, yeah, I'm used to horrible reviews anyway. No, it's true. When I did The Name of the Rose, I had so many bad reviews saying that I betrayed the book, that I cut a number of scenes. Of course, the book would require about 50 hours of reading, and it's a 1 hour, 55 minutes movie. So you have to...
I thought it was brilliant.
but in those days, more than half of the reviews were horrible, and the other half was very bad. So now, I'm saying, okay, people are forgetting that. I still get a lot of, I'm hearing a lot of nice things. And I had the same with The Lover. It was not the book. No, yeah, of course it's not the book. But I always remember one day Umberto Eco said to me about The Name of the Rose, he said, well, if some idiot tells you that it's not the book, tell them that they don't have to go to university to understand that a film is a film and a book is a book. But he said, recently I said yes to a person who is a sculptor, and he wanted to make a sculpture called The Name of the Rose. And we're going to get reviews saying the statue is not the book.
So, knowing, as you've been saying it, you are going to do it with a sincere heart, and you are ready to do it. What were the challenges in, capturing the theme and the vision and the philosophy of the book? What did you do then?
But I do it instinctively, because when I read a book and if I love the book I read, I know why. I would love a scene, for instance, or I'd love a character, or I would love a theme. This is what remains, and therefore this is what I want to convey. I'm not going to ask everyone, say, so what are the pages you like? No, I have to know which pages I like, why is it that I want to make it, and follow and be true to myself. You know, if you start betraying yourself to please so-and-so, to adapt it for a wrong cast, for a financier that wants this movie to be shot in Taiwan because he has financing parties in Taiwan, I mean, you're lost. You know, just go with what you feel, be honest, and then if people say, I don't like your movie. Well, it's fine. Sorry, I did the best. You know, sometimes some people cross the street and say, I don't like your face. I'm saying, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. It's only mine, and they probably want to. Yeah, I even had one day of going out of the main story. But one day I was at the Nice airport, and there's a guy that looks at me. I'm picking my bag at the belt, and this guy was his girlfriend. He comes to me and say, "Are you that fucking idiot that did this stupid movie, The Bear?" I'm saying yes. He says, "What a shame to do such horrible movies." I said, "Sorry, sir, I can reimburse the seat." So he said, yes. So I have change. And I give him, he said, but I was with my girlfriend. I said, I understand, you have 20 euros. He goes to his girlfriend like this. Comes back, he said, what about barking? And I had another 5 euros. I gave him, fuck you. He said, he took it and went to his girlfriend. So you see, you don't always get compliments. But I did the movie I wanted. He didn't like it. It's the rule of the game. What was the question?
No, I was saying with all the things that we talked about the movie, and that you basically said, I'm going to do it with a sincere heart. What did you do in sort of preparing it? You said you wanted to do it in Mongolia. I mean, that was the most important thing. What about, I mean, did you say 3D is what I need to tell the story to show the beautiful countryside as well? I mean, was that something that you said from the beginning, or was that something that sort of turned out after researching, looking at the countryside, talking to the people?
No. You know, what I got in China is exactly what I got. You know, I've been living 8 years in Los Angeles. I was under contract with Columbia. I lived in Hollywood for all that period. You always get the same. So when I arrived in China, the first thing the production manager had to do for us was to take us to the police organization where they breed the police dogs. And I said, well, what is it? He said, well, but of course we're going to use dogs. I said, no, it's called a wolf totem, not dog totem. And he said, why? But, why don't you use dogs? I said, because it's called wolf totem and dogs are different from wolves. He said, but nobody knows that and nobody will see the difference. I'll say, I see the difference. And he said, no, just tell the audience that they are wolves. They'll believe you. They trust you. I said they won't trust me after that if I if I lie once. So the first thing to do was to convince those people to say, okay, not only I want wolves, but I don't want Canadian wolves, because Canadian wolves, they have got long legs, they've got blue eyes, they're black and white. And Mongol wolves are the color brown, and their eyes are either green or hazelnut. And but he said, but there is no trained Mongol wolves. I said, no, but we'll train them. How? I said, well, we have to check. So I started with a casting not of wolves, but of parents of wolves. So I went to Mongolia and checked the few places. There are people who are in love with wolves, Chinese people, who have private zoos. And there is also an official zoo in a place called Harbin, it's a big, large city in the north, which is the place where I found the best parents. And then we waited to have offsprings. the trouble with wolves in zoos is that they reproduce very, very well. Wolves, there are too many wolves in the zoos, and usually the mothers, they eat their babies. Not nice, nature. Therefore, we had a deal with that zoo, and we got a first batch of 20 babies, 20 little puppies. We hired the best trainer in the world, who came from Canada with his wife, closed his ranch in Canada, and decided to live for 3 years in Beijing. We created a big ranch, a big motel for wolves, with 15 different suites, with private bedroom, private poo-poo room, and private open space, eating space, and then a recreation ground, and then a rehearsing ground. This was as big as a football field. That alone costed $100,000. And my producers, they followed me. They understood. They said, okay, this Frenchman is crazy, but after all, we went to ask him to do the way he wants. So they've been biting the bullet. And then we had to train. Though train is not the right word. You don't train a wolf like you don't train a snake. They are very, very dangerous. They only follow first their brain and follow their master. They follow the alpha male. So it's easy to train a tiger. It's easy to train a bear. Wolf, forget it. You can sort of tame them, not train them. But in any case, so that started with that, 3 years of preparation. We had to create, this trainer hired like 20 people from New Zealand, from Scotland, and all that. It was an English-speaking crew. By the way, all those wolves followed him in Canada. They were born Chinese, but they are lucky enough to have a Canadian passport now. And the other thing, you may laugh, we couldn't let them in China because they didn't understand Chinese. No, I'm serious. Because every people around them were speaking English. And they were quite afraid with Chinese language. For them, Chinese language was the other people, but people close to them, English-speaking. They all have English-speaking names, so now they're in Calgary, apparently waiting for the film trucks, because apparently they enjoyed the shooting very much. It was fun.
You just mentioned that you needed the alpha male. I think it was called King Cloudy, the leader of the pack. How did you find him within the offspring? I mean, did they sort of looked for him and then he stood out and then you knew?
No.
Okay.
No. It's democratic tyranny. So they vote for a despot, So nature is such that among the puppies, one puppy took the lead. He was the first one to eat, so he was eating the best part, and then he grew stronger, and he got the best girl, who was the sexiest, okay, they were together, and the other female wanted to kill her, to the point that we had to send those two females back to the Harbin Zoo, because they were ready to kill our star. And then this young puppy grew and became the leader of the band. And for instance, one day we came, with the French ambassador, and the trainer wanted to show that the wolves could howl, So he said to the other trainers, let's howl. You will see they will howl. So the trainer go woo, 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 and the wolves start But now the king, Cloudy, it was not his idea. He went mouth by mouth, shutting their mouth personally. It was just extraordinary, saying, I didn't tell you to howl. I am the boss here. You howl when I howl, not when those idiots are howling. So you know, it's a very, 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 very strong relationship they have with their male, with the alpha male. Now, a year and a half later, not only was the alpha male, but he was by far the most intelligent, and you could read what he felt in his eyes. So this is why he has the lead. But now one day we had to build, I told you about those ranches. We had to build 4 of them because we had to have one ranch close to each major set. Because you cannot, you know, make your star tired driving them for five hours. It's like a Hollywood star, you know. It's not because we're nice people that they have big trailers. No, they have to be relaxed. They have to be in a good mood. They have to be well fed. They have to be proud. So we use the same methods with the wolves. And therefore, one day when we changed location, Cloudy had a brother. Not much inside the head, but muscular. And he challenged Cloudy. Because Cloudy was happy, because he was an actor, because he trusted me, he decided not to fight. He didn't want to lose his one leg, he didn't want to lose one eye. So he decided to let his brother get the crown. And it was a middle of a training session where I was there. They had to go through a tunnel because, you know, wolves, they dig dens inside the ground, but they're always very hesitant to go into something that they didn't dig themselves. They would think it's all maybe a trap, you know. But Cloudy was used to do it, so Cloudy would just go boom, like this, you know. Now, we have the pack who's looking how the new king is going to deal with that situation. And the new king may be strong, but he doesn't dare going into the tunnel. So you see all the others, the other wolves, we're talking about like 20 wolves, you know, they're all looking at each other like us, you know, when you see on television, it's the new president, you go, oh, shit. So, you can read this expression. And it lasts for like 10 minutes. He hesitates. He doesn't know how to make a decision. He's weak. And there are now 2 young guys, you know, young wolves, who come and you can read in their eyes. They say, Majesty, can I show you? It's safe. I can do it for you, and you'll follow me. So of course he's the king. So he goes, no way. So now he's so embarrassed that he has to go. And he goes. He's trembling. It goes through, and then that's the other side. He appears on the other side of the hall. And now, well, the others, they understand that, okay, now it's the king. And he understands he's the king, he did something remarkable. You know, wolves, they always have their tail like this. Oh, now he has the tail like that. And all the wolves, we were saying, oh, shit. They look and they say, okay, time to go. And they all go and lick his ass, physically. And I remember saying to my trainer, I said, I've seen that before.
So as you've been saying it in a couple of interviews, dealing with Hollywood actors prepared you to deal with wolves, basically.
Well, dealing with people prepares you to deal with animals.
Good. What I would like to know is, you know, after the Chinese delegation basically asked you to do this movie, and you've spent so much time and invested so much of your own passion and, you know, work will into this project, have you ever been talking to the Chinese about for example, 7 Years in Tibet or The Lover? I mean, did they ever come back to you and basically say, listen, those were old times, now everything has changed, we're going to re-release it, or you are, as you've been saying it, you're going to be representing China with this movie? I mean, in what way has their attitude towards you changed?
Well, you know, the remarkable thing about Asia is you don't talk about things that may embarrass your guest. So once they said to me, 7 years in Tibet, we just won't never ever talk about it. And we never did.
Can I ask a question about 7 Years in Tibet?
Yes, of course, sir.
So you were saying earlier that people who...
Give us 1 second. I think you're going to get a microphone so everyone can understand you. That's going to make it easier. Thank you. There you go.
Thank you. So you were saying earlier that some critics, like at the Nice airport, take you to task. So I want to ask you a question about 7 Years in Tibet. It's not my criticism, it's something that I remember. And I'd like your response, because I don't know what the situation is. Some critics said that this was based on a true story, and was it Brad Pitt?
Sure, yes.
Yeah. So that Brad Pitt's character in real life was a Nazi, and that in the movie, this was either just brushed over or not even presented at all in the film. And so some people criticized the film for covering up the fact that the lead character was a Nazi.
Well, you know, the whole controversy came before the movie opened, way, way before. I remember there was cabal in Los Angeles about people accusing me to make a movie about the greatness of a Nazi hero. And I said, no, it's the story of a transformation. It's a story of a redemption. Nobody complained about the book, by the way. When the book opened, nobody even realized that you could not be, in those days, allowed to leave Germany if you were in a mountain climbing expedition, if you didn't have the Nazi card in your pocket. It was like in the Stalinian times, you know, everybody was a communist, even if you're an opponent. Now, I do believe that Heinrich Harrer was like 90% of the young people in Germany in those days, pro-Nazi. He definitely belonged to the Nazi youth, and I suspect that he was sincere in his beliefs. But if you have seen the movie, you probably remember that it's the story of a rather bad guy. He's not a charming man in the beginning of the movie. And precisely the story tells how this guy was selfish, was a bit pretentious, whose past, you're right, we don't have a beginning. If I had known that we would have this controversy, I would have shot a beginning with him being a young Nazi. It would have been even a better story. Becoming, you know, being a Nazi and then educating the Dalai Lama and becoming after that, for the rest of his life, not very far from here in the other side of the border, he has a temple, he's been an activist in in Buddhism. It's the story of a transformation. And this is what I like in movies, is take a character who changes. If it's a character that doesn't change, then I'm not very interested because I have no story. Unfortunately, the controversy on 7 Years in Tibet came before the movie was open. I remember people suspected that if Brad Pitt was the hero, it was probably a sort of opera to glorify a blonde hero. And that was not the case, of course. I had a very funny moment in in France. I had the privilege to have 2 pages in Le Monde, good newspaper, of a man who was criticizing the film way before it could be seen. But he was giving very, very good comments on Scorsese's other movie called Kundun. And then I invited him to a radio show. And I said, I don't understand. Have you seen my movie? He said, no. But so I said, so how can you give such a bad review? He said, because I've seen the trailer. Okay. And I said, but Kundun is not ready yet. Why is it that you give such a good review? He said, because I got the screenplay. I said, how did you get the screenplay? He said, no, I saw on the internet there was the summary, and it's much better because it's the point of view of the Dalai Lama. I said, well, it's another story in there. He said, yes, but he said, I prefer the story from the Dalai Lama point of view rather than Henry Schauer's point of view. And this is why he gave me a very bad review. So, you know, things are very bizarre. What's nice is all that is forgotten, but it was tough on me because I couldn't speak about the movie. It was all about Henry Schauer being a Nazi, and frankly, I was lacking information about that. The only thing I knew is that for sure he had to be affiliated somehow in that period. If anyone aware of that period would know. I hope I give you the answer. Thank you.
What was the name of your movie made in Ivory Coast?
Which movie?
The one in Ivory Coast.
Oh, it was called Black and White in Color. Oh, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Jean-Jacques, that brings me to another point. You just mentioned Brad Pitt. You've worked with Sean Connery, Christian Slater, Jude Law, Antonio Banderas. Is that something that you, I mean, for example, Brad Pitt, to cast him in 7 Years in Tibet, was it your idea?
No, it was his.
It was his idea? And with
he came to see me. Brad came to see me, yeah.
And did you think in that moment, okay, this is going to help me to get the movie off the ground, or this is going to make it more difficult?
No. I really... I'll tell you what happened. I finished the screenplay on a Friday, gave 1 copy. In those days, there was no emails and all that. Give 1 copy to Mark Platt, who was the head of TriStar, 1 copy to Peter Guber, who was the head of Columbia, and 1 copy to my agent, Jeff Berg. On Sunday, I received a phone call from CA, a big agency, and a friend of mine over there, one of the boss, say, "Hey, JJ, Brad loves the screenplay." I'm almost saying which screenplay, you know. And he says the following: I hope there's no journalist here, because if there are journalists, I won't tell you the story. I may not. No, I won't. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, because it's a very sweet story. It's wonderful. To make it very, very short, Brad came and we both pretended that we were busy for lunch. We decided to have lunch anyway, and at 7 o'clock in the evening, we were still around the same table, and we decided to go ahead. He is a very charming man. I absolutely adore him. We had wonderful time, and I'm lucky enough. So far, I have been always great, wonderful relationship with my stars. But you have to take care of them, of course. They're fragile.
What personally would interest me, because I think he's a great actor, but he doesn't do any more movies, is Sean Connery. And your experience with him on The Name of the Rose, because it is a great movie, I think. I remember when I saw it, and I still like it very much. I think that most of the people in the audience like it as well. What was it like working with him? Because he seems to be a very impressive person, and he said, I read a quote that he basically once said, you know, if you hire me, I'm there from 8 to 8, but after that and before that, it's my free time. So
I love British actors. I love the English school of acting. They're very different. You know, French actors, they're artists. They have to feel, improvise. It's talent. They are Rimbaud, you know. American actors, it's method acting. They have to run around the block and run around the block. And English actors, they just learn that it's a skill. It's their job. And for instance, you know, I remember Sean Connery would always say, I don't need to be moved. The audience has to be moved, not me. For instance, you know, first press conference we had, he said, we'll have one press conference, only one. Okay, so 20th Century Fox decides to be in London. In London, we're like 300 journalists, so the first question goes to Sean Connery. Mr. Connery, great actor, the universe, big films, yeah. So, could you tell us what one needs to become a great actor? Takes the mic, he says, get a good lawyer. He gives me the microphone back. So now there's 400 journalists, a big silence, you know. And they understand that this is it. So some other person say, all right, so what do you think of the quarrels between the Benedictine and the Franciscans in the 13th century? He takes the mic back, he says, ask the boy. It's me, I'm the boy. Because he doesn't need to know. And this is the beauty of it. He doesn't need to know. What he needs is to have a part that he understands. I'll give you another thing that, and it's one of my best experiences in life, because I love giving freedom to actors, but also love giving very precise details. I remember, you know, he always would ask, boy, do you want me to have the glass here, or here, or here? So I'd say, second position. How long do I keep it? 2 seconds and a half. All right. My face, this way, Sean, there's a light here. Be careful, if not, it gives you a shadow here. Right, boy. All right. And roll. And he would get the glass, exactly right position, right angle, done. Yeah. And so one day he comes to me, and on a Sunday, he says, there was something he didn't understand. So he says, can we go on the set? I'd like to rehearse the scene. I'm saying, Sean, the set is not built. He said, but can we go in the studio where the set is going to be built? I said, yeah, of course. So he said, here is the lectern. How far is the window? How many feet? I say 3, I have to invent, 3 steps and a half. Goes 1, 2, 3 and a half. And then you look through the window's here, and you look through like this. Okay, so we rehearse. Now, 3 weeks later, we shoot the scene. There's a lectern, but unfortunately the window is a bit further away. He couldn't do it. In the movie, he goes 1, 2, 3 and a half. Look through the window, who's over there? No, but you know what? I respect that. I respect that, because what does it mean? It means that this man, every morning in his bathroom, has been rehearsing. And he is like, I know I won't have any problem, because he's going to know his lines, all the behavior's right. Unfortunately, I gave him the wrong indication. So this is the kind of man he is. I have the greatest respect and absolute love for him. I see them, see his wife and himself every 2 years. We're very shy, you know, because he's a guy, you know. He doesn't want to do movies anymore. He's fed up. He's in a period of life. He likes golf, and he doesn't like the atmosphere of the film industry anymore. He's upset. But very nicely, he's always been saying, "Well, if you need some financing," it's always been very, very, very lovely. I am very moved when I see him. Very, very moved. I love him.
Thank you so much, Jean-Jacques. As you've been saying it in the beginning, you had a great childhood, but you needed adventure. You wanted something to happen, basically, get out of that one-way street and go and explore the world. Was it a given for you that you knew this is something that you could accomplish in doing movies? I mean, was that sort of like the trigger that made you study movies and go into that direction?
Probably so, because I remember vividly I decided to be a filmmaker. I didn't know what it was really, but because when I was 6.5 or 7, I was reading Mickey Mouse magazine. That was what, and one day with Mickey Mouse magazine came a catalog of a photo shop where they had, I mean, a shop selling cameras, where they had a wonderful catalog with all those machines, you know. Still photography, but also movies. When my mother came back from work, I said, "Mom, I want to use those machines," and because it was a combination of a toy and of the dreams of my Saturday afternoons. And my mother made a few phone calls, and friends were. They said it's a catastrophe because he's such a good student. You know, because I was a good little boy, I had good marks at school, and my mother was horrified that they wanted me to be an engineer in the electrical department or at the railway. My father was in the railway, so, you know, railway in France in those days were like Swiss railway. They were clean and operating on time. So it was a great future. But my mother went to the local bookshop and said, "Do you have a book about becoming a filmmaker?" So the lady said, "No, but there is a magazine called Future, and maybe one day you'll have an article about that." 1 year later there was, and my mother took me to the prestigious Femis, it was called IDEC in those days, and I came. I remember I was very embarrassed because we had a meeting with the manager, the boss, but I had shorts, you know, and I had white socks, but unfortunately one of the white sock was always falling, so I spent my time pulling up because I wanted to be nice in front of Mr. le Directeur. Well, I'll make it short, but anyway, he did remember that I showed up when I was 7 years old, and I went to that film. I did that film school. I'm a graduate of that film school, and got my diplomas very, very young. I've been a director since I was 19 and a half, and yesterday I turned 72. So I've never done anything else.
Unfortunately, we only have time for one more question, Jean-Jacques, and I would like to hand the microphone to the lady over there. Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't work.
What? You want to take this one? No, you sit down because it's going to be direct. Oh, you walk over there? Good.
One. Okay, I think now it's working. Thank you. I have a question about movie careers nowadays. I've read that you were working in advertising before you went into the film business. If you look at the film business today, how would you evaluate the chances of people who started their career outside the film business and try to get into it later as either a producer or director? Is that more difficult today because of more competition? And how can this step be done successfully?
Well, you know, our industry has changed enormously. When I started at school, you could not make even a short film without renting a camera, without film stock, without going to the lab, hiring an editing table. I mean, you needed the hardware. And of course, it was very expensive. As a matter of fact, I did the two schools in France, Louis Lumière, because I was so young, so I did the two. Without those two schools, I wouldn't be here. I was given work by my teachers, and this is how I penetrated, I should say, into this very closed industry. So the huge changes is today, I have in my pocket a camera that would probably can do an excellent movie. If I have a good story, and I could put it on the internet and maybe nobody will see it and maybe it becomes a great event, and then you've got people in the industry who would be interested to make you into a director for a future movie. It's about telling stories, you know. So in a way, it's easier. The problem is that we all have this camera in our pockets, and therefore there is a lot of competition. How do you have access to the media? How do you, well, tell a good story, I think. But let's put it this way. There was, there still is today, half of the population wants to be in the film industry. There is even a story in Hollywood about the Pope going to St. Peter's in heaven, and the regret of his life was he was a Pope and not a director. But anyway, it's true. I wouldn't like to be a Pope, though. So you know. What can I say? I also should say one thing. Because of the social media, because of so many television channels, cinema has changed vastly, as you can know. There are still local movies in our local languages, but the cinema today is mostly blockbusters, with no story, visual that can be understood by people of very different culture and background, by young people who are more used to see life through a video game than experiencing the reality of life. You know, the world is changing, therefore cinema has been vastly changing. I'm just back from Los Angeles, and I mean, for the last 10 years, I've been hearing the same thing over and over again. I even yesterday, I have it in my pocket, I received another offer for a blockbuster in Los Angeles. I can't even read the screenplay. It's so silly. It's you know, and I understand why. Because if you don't do that, you have no chance to open in Singapore and in Shanghai and in Peru and in Argentina the same day. Why the same day? Because if you wait a week, your movie is going to be pirated and you will have it for free. You know, I spent 2 weeks in Moscow I was sent by my distributor who said, you know, you have to be the president of Moscow Film Festival. They love you over there, and where you can open the movie. Well, I did promotion for a movie that has been available in Russia in Russian, dubbed in Russian, available everywhere on the internet in absolute pristine quality. So I did promotion for a movie that was free and pirated. This movie, Wolf-Totem. So of course the world is changing because of that. And today, you know, my job personally, very fortunately, didn't change. I'm still doing the movies the same sort of way. But in Hollywood, a lot of people are just guns for hire. You know, just, and if the studio doesn't like it, they just change the guy. They take another guy. It doesn't matter. Because, you know, if you have a green alien that is chasing a red metal turtle, do you really need someone with vision? You just need a few guys with good experience in visual effect that are somewhere in Sri Lanka. You'll never meet them. You know, you'll meet a guy maybe in London who speaks your language, but the work is going to be made in Tunisia, Madagascar. It comes back to London, but the instruction you give in London is not understood at the other end. So we're into something different. Now, where is creativity now? In television, I must say. So the best screenplay writers and a lot of my colleagues, most of my colleagues, decide to drop the film industry. They're not interested. And they go into television and make with smaller budget, but better stories. And I'll end with a personal note. You may have heard that the man who did the music for many of my movies, The Name of the Rose and Wolf-Totem, James Horner, had a terrible crash with his own plane and is not around anymore. And a few days before he had this accident, he was saying to me with a small voice, Jean-Jacques, how can I be a composer for movies that I don't understand? With all those, how can I do a music for two robots that are blowing each other? And I hope that what happened was a mechanical accident. I'm not sure.
Jean-Jacques, thank you so much for coming to Zurich. This has been great. Ladies and gentlemen, Jean-Jacques Annaud. Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.